Twizzlers are one of the best-known candy brands in the United States. And Strawberry Twizzlers in particular are one of the best-selling non-chocolate candies in the country. But this wasn't always the case. Although Twizzlers have long been popular, most people didn't actually know them by name. This is the story of Twizzlers. The story of Twizzlers starts with one of the oldest candy companies in the United States, Young and Smylie, or Y&S. With origins dating back to 1845, Young and Smylie specialized in making licorice, a candy flavored by using the root of Glycyrrhiza glabra, or the licorice plant. From the root, a juice can be extracted, and when the juice is cooled and dried, it has the color and consistency of tar. And this extract is reportedly between 50 to 150 times sweeter than sugar. Young and Smylie's licorice roots were imported from an area of the Mediterranean known as the Licorice Belt. In addition to being sold as candy, Young and Smylie's licorice was used in medicinal products. The company's products like Acne pellets and licorice lozenges were advertised to treat colds, soothe throats, and cure coughs. And Y&S's licorice was used by pharmacists and drug manufacturers to mask the flavor of their medicines. Now, as a side note, licorice has had a long history as a candy and medicine dating back to ancient times. But licorice also has a dangerous side. Cardiologists warn today that black licorice, made from Glycyrrhiza glabra, can have serious health consequences if eaten in large quantities, including lowering potassium levels in the body, which can result in an irregular heart rhythm. By the late 1800s, Young and Smylie was described as the largest licorice manufacturer in the world, making between 25 to 30,000 pounds of licorice a day. Young and Smylie was so large it was actually able to buy up the other major licorice makers, including SV and FP Scudder, H.W. Pepperbridge, Henry Raleigh, and Dominion Licorice and Novelty Company, consolidating licorice interest in the US and Canada under one name, the National Licorice Company. By the late 1940s, National Licorice made some 2.8 million pounds of licorice a year, largely sold under the Y&S brand name. At first, all products from Y&S were actual licorice. This meant that licorice from the Glycyrrhiza glabra plant were added to a candy base of flour, sugar, corn syrup, salt, and shortening. But then Y&S had a kind of epiphany. What if they added flavors other than licorice to the same base? Early flavors included chocolate and strawberry, but more unusual flavors like spearmint, orange, lemon, lime, grape, and root beer followed in the ensuing decades. Although these new fruit-flavored candies were sometimes still called licorice, they weren't licorice at all. And to Y&S's surprise, its fruit-flavored, quote-unquote licorice began to outsell the company's real licorice products. Plant manager Hans Germa told Mike Briggs of the Quad City Times newspaper in 1977, "Most of the older people still favor the black licorice, but it's a kid's product. Red or strawberry is the biggest seller." And among Y&S's strawberry-flavored candy were long, twisted sticks called Twizzlers. Twizzlers were made by extruding ingredients through star-shaped nozzles that turned as the candy mixture moved through. This is what gave Twizzlers their signature twist, with company spokespersons estimating that Twizzlers have an average 15 twists per strand. The candy was then moved along a conveyor belt where it was cut to size, dried for hours, and then ultimately packaged. Twizzlers and other Y&S candies sold best during the summer months. This trend was actually attributed to the fact that they wouldn't melt in the heat like chocolate would. They were sold for as little as a penny, making them more accessible to children. It also made them resistant to economic downturns or recessions as an affordable indulgence. As plant manager Doug Hartman noted, "It represents a very good value. You get considerably more licorice for the same money, compared with other candy products. It's a reward or a treat that people can, in most cases, still afford to buy, even in the toughest of times." In 1975, Y&S sold $25 million worth, or 48 million to 50 million pounds of licorice or licorice-type products in the United States and Canada. But despite the success of its candies, Y&S still had a big problem. No one knew Twizzlers by their name. Y&S once made 16 different types of licorice candies, including sticks, twists, buttons, cigars, cigarettes, and pipes. But by the 1970s, many of these products were no more. As Y&S president Charles Albert Smylie told Joan Cook for the New York Times, they were, quote, too expensive to make. Instead, Y&S focused its attention on its two most successful candies, Nibs and Twizzlers. All of this seemed like a sound strategy for the business, except for many Americans didn't know Nibs or Twizzlers by their brand name. Instead, they knew them as Licorice Bits or Licorice Twists or Whips. According to Charles Smylie, most of our business has been in the penny candy, where you don't have an identity. People point and say red licorice or black licorice. We would like them to say red Twizzlers and black Twizzlers.
The first step in resolving Y&S's, quote, identity crisis was intensive marketing. In 1975, the company hired Madison Avenue ad agency Friedrich Freon and Strohmeyer, whose approach was to tie the Twizzlers and Nibs names to the qualities that people liked about them, by using the tagline, soft, chewy, delicious.
As Y&S marketing manager Walter G. Fitzgerald stated, "With teenagers, our biggest customers, we've been relying on the package to promote the brand. Now we want to imbue the product with certain features to get people who aren't aware of it to try it."
Now, it's not clear if the tagline, soft, chewy, delicious, had the desired effect Y&S was looking for, because the company was actually acquired by the Hershey Corporation just 2 years later. And Hershey would switch Twizzlers ad agency from Friedrich Freon and Strohmeyer to DDB Needham. But Friedrich Freon and Strohmeyer may have had a bigger impact than anyone could have ever guessed. Not because of the tagline, soft, chewy, delicious, but because of another phrase that appeared in Twizzlers ads at the time. Give your mouth something to smile about.
In the mid-1980s, DDB transformed the concept of give your mouth something to smile about into the slogans Twizzlers, make your mouth happy, and Twizzlers, makes mouths happy. Accompanying the new slogans were a series of print ads and commercials featuring a disembodied pair of red lips on a blue background, talking, or in some cases singing, about how good Twizzlers were. These advertisements successfully cemented the Twizzlers name in consumers' minds.
Twizzlers makes mouth happy.
As Doug Hartman noted, 15 years ago, when Hershey acquired Y&S, there was virtually no brand name recognition. We were the first company to advertise licorice-type products. Today, Twizzlers is the #1 selling product in movie theaters, and licorice as a category is growing 8% faster annually, relative to other candies. Brand recognition was further aided with the introduction of Twizzlers Pull and Peel version, the first Twizzlers line extension since Hershey had acquired the Y&S brand. In 1985, Hershey controlled 38% of the licorice market in the United States. A decade later, that number had risen to about 50%. And despite containing no licorice whatsoever, the 1-pound bag of Strawberry Twizzlers was the licorice industry's best-selling product.
Twizzlers used the make your mouth happy and makes mouths happy slogans for 15 years, before finally replacing them with play first, eat later in 2001. Today, Twizzlers' slogan is the twist you can't resist. Today, Hershey's Twizzlers continues to dominate the licorice industry, with sales of nearly $215 million as of 2019. From a nameless licorice twist that was once sold at the penny candy counter, Twizzlers are now one of the US's most iconic candies. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the history of Twizzlers. If you like this video and you would like to hear me talk more about the history of companies and their brands, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel below. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.